Is there anything that you've witnessed so far in your career that you would say is probably a challenge, and would you have a solution to it?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, the short answer is yes. But let me try to think of a good example here. So often, I guess there's two things that come pretty readily to mind. First is that we, as technologists, we often look at technology and then bring, if we build it, they will come mindset, right? So you see this in GIS quite a lot, right? People will build really cool GIS applications and systems and then demonstrate them to the business and like hope the business kind of comes along for the ride, right? Hope the business starts using the application, using the system, and it's switching that focus and saying, okay, let's go out to the business, let's interview those stakeholders, let's make sure we address whatever their unmet need is. How do we design this solution to better kind of address their pain points and their challenges because they know best what it is they're struggling with day to day. And certainly in my career, that's not always a mindset that I had. And then the second one is maybe a little bit harder to explain, but let me do my best. There's a concept that I talk about a lot, and it's borrowed from Forrester Research. It's an enterprise technology portfolio, and you can think of it like a bullseye. And what the bullseye is there to demonstrate is that there is an organization has different types of systems. So in the center of that bullseye would be like their payroll systems, their asset management systems, these core systems that have rigorous SLAs around them, rigorous change control. They move slowly. They don't. There's not a innovation happens very differently there than you might think of it outside. And what I mean by that is, if you're an IT professional working on one of these systems, innovation to you is going to be like, well, I was able to change this process to save us a couple cycles, right? So it's just a little more efficient now. It maybe takes a little bit. It takes a couple minutes less at night, or the update happens a little faster. It takes a few hours less of manpower to apply, things like that, right? And then in the outermost ring, and I'm skipping the middle one. There's three rings as I envision it here. There's the outermost ring is this business focused, business leaning technology circle, and that type of stuff's like we all hear stories all the time of like, hey, me and my team, we needed X, Y, and Z. IT didn't prioritize it and couldn't get it to us. So we now have a Dropbox, and that Dropbox syncs with, a Google Docs, and we're all working in this type of thing to get this work done fast, right? There's more solutions than that, right? You could think of it like in the GIS space, you could think of it like, well, I'm working in ArcGIS Online. I stood up a survey. That survey is designed to get so survey 123 is what I mean by that for those who might not be familiar with the product. And that survey, we have people out in the field doing field inspections, quickly collecting information and syncing it back to us, right? Both of those two quick examples are kind of those business leaning. They didn't take a lot to stand up. They don't take a lot to support, but they're solving an emergent business need and a pain point for that business. And then what happens in that in-between ring is sometimes one of those systems that you design out here in this, kind of this business edge needs to, the enterprise recognizes it and says, hey, we need that survey information too. We actually need that in the asset management system. Now you need to bring that inward. And then that's when you have to get more stakeholders and you have difficult decisions around how we're doing the work and what else needs to like kind of hook into it, right? So you need to get change control around it. You lose like the line of business that had previously been funding it. They're going to maybe lose a little bit of control over it because there are other stakeholders that have demands on that system. And it's this concept that, to be clear, none of those three tiers, either the kind of the verge, the transition verge, the inner one, the outer one, none of them are right or wrong. And it isn't always. I gave an example where something would transition inward, but not everything transitions inward. The critical thing is to understand where the system is. Relatively speaking, it's not a hard, fast line, and to understand where that system is and support it in a fashion that will enable the business to be successful there. So if it's that outer system, as IT, you should be aware of it, and you should offer them support and guidance and things like that. At least in my mind, but you don't need to control it. You don't need to control that outer system. Again, in this example, that survey stood up in ArcGIS Online. You don't need to control it. They're doing their work. But you want to be aware of it. That way, if they need support, if they need guidance, they have a reach back and they can say, is there a way I should design this table to maybe better match our asset management system in case anyone ever needs this stuff? Because obviously we don't want to just take stuff from my survey and jam it in that asset management system, because we have golden records, we have all these other things in that asset management system that are, again, more probably enterprise rigorous than we have out there. But we want to at least know those things, so if this day ever comes, it'll be a little bit easier and you're at least aware of it, not surprised that this exists. And that thought construct has been really important to me, and often is pretty important to the way I talk to customers. And so, that's one of the big things that kind of like I learned over my career and wish I knew earlier, because it would probably change some of those conversations I had earlier where I'd look at a system or look at something was doing and be like, hey, we need to know more about that now, right? Not, hey, it's good. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you want any advice, I'm happy to connect you to someone that knows how to help you or help you myself, whatever it would be.